And I will give my usual disclaimer that I'm still getting used to hosting these meetings. So if I ever am not doing the proper procedure, feel free to let me know. I will not take it personally. Let me pull up the agenda. We start out with a roll call. Ravonda Smith.
Here.
Claire Cousins.
Here.
Rebecca Wolf.
Here.
Marie Bell.
Here.
Rebecca Borer.
Here.
Anthony Bennett.
Here.
And Robert Davis. Robert Davis is connecting to audio, but I can see that he is on. Can you hear us, Robert?
He's muted. Robert, you're muted.
Hello.
Hey, Robert.
How are you guys?
Good to have you here.
Thank you.
Okay, we have everyone present. We'll start with a motion. I will accept the motion to approve the meeting minutes from the December 15th meeting.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Rebecca. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Second.
Oh,
We'll give that one to Marie. It was a tie. All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. I will accept a motion to approve the accounts payable for December 2021.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Claire, seconded by Rebecca.
Rebecca Borer. Just for
Rebecca
the-
Borer. Good clarification. All in favor of approving?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next up, I will give a quick report on current status at HHA. The first thing to note is that on December 28th, we had our resident commissioner elections. We had what I believe to be a record turnout, which was good. And our two existing tenant commissioners, Robert Davis and Anthony Bennett, were both reelected.
We.
So congratulations to both of you.
Congratulations, guys.
Thank you.
So that was a good success. We were glad to see good turnout. I would like to note that just in the process of kind of becoming accustomed with that procedure and trying to figure out the policy, procedure, and rules around the election, it appears that there is a lot of ambiguity in the current kind of bylaws and procedures for that election. And so I'm definitely noting that, bringing that to the awareness of the attorneys. And so if we're looking at kind of re-upping bylaws, policies, and procedures, commissioner elections is definitely something that needs some more clarity on how that procedure should happen, and specifics as to how the staff and tenants should expect that process to go forward. So that's a definite one to highlight. But again, it was a good election, and so I was glad to be able to see that and be a part of that process. Um, Another update that we have is that we have been in contact with civil service regarding the security position. And we did hear back from them. They sent us a guideline for a position. Rebecca, are you the host of this meeting? Who's the host? Oh, Hudson Tech, sorry, Sean. Do you have that document or should I share my screen and pull it up? I emailed it earlier today.
Security guard one, I have it.
Okay, thank you. So for those who don't know, because we are a governmental organization, all of our hiring has to happen through civil service. Titles need to be approved by the state civil service, and that process goes through the local civil service administration. This is the position which they have on file. So if we wanted to move quickly and hire a security guard, this would be the title that we would do that through. There is a test associated with this. It's a competitive class position. So whoever would be taking that position would need to have completed that and be one of the top 3 candidates on the list. Currently, there's no one on the list. And so we would need to call for a new test. We could hire somebody in the interim, but they would have to complete that test and go through the entire civil service process. I know that the board has expressed interest in looking at different position titles and different position responsibilities. So that is another option with civil service, is to create new titles or look for other titles that may be adjacent that could still, check off the necessary boxes, but that would be a different process. And if we are looking to move quickly, this would be the position that we would want to be looking at. Does
Can
anybody
I
have any
ask,
questions? Yeah.
I just have a quick question. Well, I don't know if it's a quick question, probably not a quick answer, but how static are these specific work activities? In other words, how much flexibility do you have to add or subtract here and still be considered a security guard?
So what I've experienced in the past with civil service is they try to bake in not ambiguity, but some flexibility into the role, into the actual vocabulary of the position. And you have a certain amount of flexibility as long as it as you feel like it's covered by the actual description. And if you go past that and you're really looking at actually changing responsibilities, changing roles, changing supervision, then I think they want you to either apply to have the position amended or to look to a new or different position.
Can I ask a question? Are there any sort of related positions in the civil service? Or I guess this is what you just said. There are some potential other ways that this could be framed, but that we would have to reframe entirely, like what we're looking for. I was just curious about, for example, like conflict resolution skills training or restorative justice training, because I know that that's actually like the restorative justice thing, I believe is currently like New York State requires that of schools, that it be part of the disciplinary actions or something, along those lines. And so I just wondered if that would be something we would want to consider.
I
Rebecca
feel like,
Borer?
yeah, I just want to say, I wonder if also that would tie in, because when I'm just reading through this, as far as civil service goes, I think like just when we're talking about like restorative justice, that's specifically talking about like dealing with people. And so when we're reading just the basic distinguishing features of the job, it's actually to guard against trespassing or damage to the property, supplies, or operating systems, and people aren't mentioned in that at all. So I feel like that's something that's been part of like what we've talked about as a resource officer, is actually someone that's available to the residents for these sorts of things, conflict resolution as well. So I wonder if there's like a way to amend this description, or just in the interest of speed. But I guess there's a lot to discuss in this, but that's just one thing I noticed, is that, it's specifically talking about guarding the property rather than residents.
Yeah, I think that's a really important distinction that you made, Rebecca, and it's something that I also noticed. And that's it's just really interesting that it never actually references tenants at all in the entire position. Which is really, what we've heard from the tenants is there's tenants who feel unsafe in the halls, in the building. And so that's a real concern. Now, what I would say is, if we wanted to hire a security guard in this position temporarily, making clear to civil service and to the candidates, this was not a long-term position, that we could hire somebody and we could say, this is your role as security guard, but we could clearly distinguish that our concern is the safety of our tenants. And that's what we're looking for. And there's nothing that says that we could not institute our own trainings or look for our own qualifications in terms of somebody who has restorative justice training, conflict resolution. And we could get moving quickly with somebody using some of our own standards, using this as a broad, kind of a broad job description, as long as we don't go outside of the bounds needed direction. And in that time, we can be searching for other positions that we feel like either within civil service better suit our needs, or work to create our own job title. And it's more of a process, but it's certainly not impossible. And I think, given the fact that I've heard a lot of concern from the board from my first interview through other meetings and conversations, with really wanting to make this a position that best serves the needs of the housing authority, I think that would be a reasonable course of action, is to create our own position. But again, my concern would be that wouldn't happen quickly.
If we create our own position, does it go through civil service still?
Correct.
Like-
It always has to go through civil service. We would
Yeah.
make sure that we would kind of write down exactly what we're looking for. We would, give that to civil service. They may say, oh, well, what about this position? What about that position that we have? Are you sure this can't happen under the security guard position? We would go back and forth. And then if we felt like it indeed was a unique individual position that we really wanted to do, then we would send that off to them, and they would petition the state. The local commission would petition the state to create a new position within the civil service kind of repertoire.
May I just real quick? I mean, reading through this, I think there's sufficient amount of flexibility in the wording of this document for us to be able to hire someone it's a question of emphasis, isn't it, really? The distinguishing features includes, does related work is required. That's kind of an afterthought, but that could end up being, kind of the bigger part of their job. The work is required. You see what I mean?
that's exactly the kind of places where they're giving you that some flexibility
Yeah.
in that time. Yep.
And everything here kind of does that too. But yeah, I think it's a question of emphasis once we go out and look for someone, because you can add things. And so I presume that this is sufficient to move forward.
Yeah, I would agree, and especially if we're looking at it on a temporary basis while the board puts together a plan for a either a different position or multiple positions that are really in line with what the board feels are necessary.
I feel like that makes a lot of sense, at least just in the context of how many times it's been said that we need this, and how many times it's been expressed, and just in the interest of timeliness. But I'd also really like to hear from everyone else.
Yeah, I think that this is necessary. I think that, the faster we can move on it, if it makes sense to the rest of the board, then I think that's something that we should absolutely consider. Given the reports by Robert and Anthony about the immediate need for, some safety measures to be put in place.
Yes, the faster, the better. But, we want to make sure it's all dots are put up there and everything is covered. I mean, expedience is good, but we just want to get it right. Have to keep doing it over and over again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I agree with Anthony. I like the fact that we can hire someone right now, and then revise this and then have them test in. I think the best thing to do is to get somebody on right now with a temporary timeline, to where we have time for them to either qualify for the new position that we get from civil service. So if we can do that, I would love that.
And if we were going to try to do that, and that's I think that's a great way of moving forward. Does the board have any opinion on that kind of timeline? Would you want to say like a 3-month, looking for a 3-month commitment? Would that give enough time to kind of evaluate and think about the bigger position? And obviously whoever applies for and if we find somebody to take a short-term position, whether it's 3, 4, 5, 6 months, whatever it is, they could obviously be eligible to apply for the larger position. It wouldn't exclude them, but what kind of timeline would you like to look at for? I'm looking at 90
days. I'm looking at 90 days, and I think that gives us enough of time to work with civil service. We can put exactly what we want in the description, how we want it for our tenants. I think that would be perfect, but I'm not going to be the only one. Obviously, I'm going to let everybody else decide if 90 days sounds good.
Sounds good to me.
Sounds good to me.
I agree.
Yeah, sounds good.
Great. So we will begin that process, and we will let civil service know that of our intentions, and we'll start a search for candidates. I know that we do have at least one current tenant and employee who's currently on our maintenance staff who is interested in the position, so that's good to start off with.
Thank you.
We'll get a list of other candidates interested as quickly as possible.
But can you hear me?
Yes.
No, okay. But from our last talk about the security situation, wasn't it brought up that we shouldn't have no one from the building being in that position?
No, it was brought up that we wanted someone to be certified and had a license in this position. And we have someone that lives in the building that is certified and licensed. We wanted you to be certified and have a license in this position.
So in other words, if we do want somebody from the building, needs to be certified, right? Is that what you're saying?
Anybody can apply for this position as long as they're certified and have a license. So you can live there, you cannot live there, but you do have to be certified and have the license and qualify for this position.
Okay, I agree with that.
We have a question from Emroni, but I want to just make sure that all the board members have asked their questions or made their statements before we open it up.
Yeah, I'm cool with what the answers. I'm cool with it. Sounds good so far.
If I could just back to the whole like special things that we might want to put in the job description. Are we talking about doing that for the 3-month position or just casting a net to see what we get?
Well, that's all we can do is cast a net to see what we get. And certainly for the person to take on the long-term position of security guard under civil service, you can see it right there on the requirements is the eligibility. It's a certificate of security guard officer issued by New York State Department of State. So that's mandatory if it's going to go through them. So we just
I was talking more about
typically-
like special trainings that we might want them to have or things like that.
oh, whether those would be requirements.
Yeah, I mean, that was what I was thinking. But
Yeah, I guess what I would say is if board members want to send me or start an email chain with the board and myself on their listing any relevant trainings or certifications, we can try to put those in there. We should just remember that the more requirements we put on it, the smaller our pool of respondents might be. But we could also put them on as recommendations, just to show what we're looking for.
Yeah, and I wonder if it would be possible to have it as something like trainings that are provided in the future as well as like an option in that. So it's just like in the job description, they can be like, okay, restorative justice. Now I can learn about this if they haven't learned already.
yeah,
Typically, when civil service requires a certification or a license of some sort, if you look for candidates and no one responds with those certifications, you can hire somebody on provisionally and they can start those trainings on the job. And so I know that that's something that civil service allows. So again, let's get together all of our wish lists for what we want to see. We'll try to do as robust of a candidate search as we can, and then we'll keep the board updated on what we get in response. And again, I would like to bring somebody on before the next meeting. So if possible, we'll see how fast we can make it happen. But we'll have to communicate via email to ensure that everybody understands the process and can follow along with everything.
Good.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
Oh,
Nope. Okay.
Yes, I do have a question. I'm sorry.
Sorry, Claire.
Do we still have, sorry, available COVID money to like stock up on masks to distribute, seeing as the numbers are rising? I just didn't know if anybody from the Housing Authority, you or Trish, Nick, has reached out to the city about making sure our folks get tests and masks.
Yeah, so we we do have masks. We were actually got a donation of a good number of masks from the youth department. We can always use more. We haven't specifically reached out to the city for that. And we are also actually Friday, we're going to be hosting the school district here because they need to get a lot of test kits out for their youth in the school district. And so I believe that one's specific for school district children.
Okay.
But
I think
masks and
we
test
should
kits-
look into what's left in the budget, and I think that the like send it out an email to the board maybe, and maybe that's something that we can, get involved in, where people are at and what they need so that we can help you guys out with distributing stuff again. We did it last year, where an organization came in and gave out cleaning supplies and PPE. And I think it's probably time to do something similar.
We also got a donation of test kits yesterday. I totally forgot, but we are getting those and we have stock, but I think that's a great idea.
Great.
Chairperson Smith just reminded me that our procedure for these meetings is to do all public comments at the end of the meeting. So if we could save all public comments for the end of the meeting, we'll go ahead and do that if that's all right.
So Nick, can I ask you something?
Yes, go ahead.
So where are we on the asbestos cleaning for the apartments?
So as far as I understand, and I actually just received some of the paperwork that I've been looking for my entire time here on the asbestos remediation. As far as I understand, we have a list of asbestos remediation firms who have responded to an RFP that went out I'm not sure exactly when, but I think they're still valid. And so that is a next step for us, is to look at one firm. From what I understand, our maintenance staff has reviewed them and thinks that there is a candidate that would be the best one to go with. So I think that I think we need to circle back with our attorneys to make sure that the scope of work that they're looking at is indeed the scope of work that we need from them, and that meets the estimates. And if that's the case, I think we're ready to do a procurement for that.
All right, and I've been asked questions by these tenants. Do you actually have office hours?
Can you repeat that?
Do you actually have office hours?
I try to do office hours Tuesday and Thursday, 11 to 12. But the issue is when I get into the building and start doing stuff, I very often get pulled either into Trish's office or off with the maintenance to come look at something there. I try to stay there for that entire time, but there are days when I'm not able to do it. But that's my goal, is to try to be there Tuesdays and Thursdays, 11 to 12.
All right, that's good. And one last question I have, and nothing against you or the job you're doing, but where are we at on hiring a full-time ED? Or are you
It's on the agenda. I have a good update for you. It's on the I'll get to
I
that
do
at the end of my agenda here.
So,
Okay.
but I do want to Anthony, I do want to let you know that HUD did inform me that Nick is not allowed to find the ED, that is the board's job. And there is some good stuff that I have been able to work on, and Nick knows the information as well, that we do have on the agenda to update.
It's interesting that he's not allowed to be involved in that process, but okay.
Yeah.
So what I can do, Anthony, is I can assist in basically recruitment in procuring a recruitment firm. But the actual hiring of a new ED absolutely has to be the board. That's very clearly called out in the bylaws. And so that's basically, as you break it down, hiring the new ED is your guys' job, but I can help in the process of finding as many candidates for you as possible and bringing on other help to do that. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, that makes sense. It just, you just never had, you just never wanted to be the full-time ED?
Correct. I agreed to do this just to help out in the short term. And as you know, we had a candidate who we thought was going to be a long-term candidate who I was going to kind of help on board. She didn't end up being viable for her. And so yeah, so now I'm still temporary. But I'm obviously willing to help out, and I'm going to do whatever I can while I'm here to help find a new ED.
Okay, thank you.
I always know when somebody says nothing against you, but
I don't want to bruise no egos or anything here,
that's okay. I'm tough to bruise. Marie, you had a question? Oh, you're muted still, Marie. Sorry.
Sorry. Regarding the security guard, did we need to make a resolution on that? Or not? No.
I don't think so.
Okay, fine. That's fine. And then another quick question. With regards to the asbestos procurement, actually, I can't, sorry, I didn't look at the agenda. Are we talking about RAD by any chance? Because even though I don't think we have to talk about this now, that's actually kind of a significant part of this question of whether we're in compliance, is it not?
It is. Asbestos abatement is a major component of the RAD compliance, from what I understand.
Okay, so it's not on the agenda, and I understand that, but I just want to make sure that that's one of, because that's another area that obviously we're going to need to make sure that all gets dovetailed in with. Did the HUD person ever call you actually?
Oh yeah, I'm in
Okay.
contact with HUD just about weekly. There's a few different branches of HUD that either Avonda or I are in constant communication with. And the update that I can give you in that ballpark is that the great thing about this the law firm that we procured at our last meeting is that as I was hoping, they really did hit the ground running. And they have just been sending document after document to fill in the holes of items that I haven't been able to find in our files, and just to narratively fill in holes in my understanding, so that we can really go back, figure out where we stand with Brad. And that's really been their first priorities. Before we do anything else, we have to fully establish with HUD that we are in compliance. And then earlier this week, we just had our first call with both our fee accountant and the attorneys on the same call, and we were actually on with HUD. And that was really great, because that's just bringing a bunch of folks who have institutional knowledge and memory into the same room, and a lot of pieces were put together. The picture got a lot clearer as to where we stand. And HUD, I can tell you, is definitely in a much better place than they were even a few weeks ago.
That's what
in
I'm
terms of knowing that we are not only aware of all of the issues they've brought up, but that we're working on a lot of them, and some of them have already been taken care of. So we're really moving in the right direction. And I have to say that I'm really glad that we did bring on WOH, because they just came with a huge amount of knowledge and experience. And it's been a real breath of fresh air, and great to work with them. And they're they're not waiting for me to give them individual instructions. They're going right to HUD. They're figuring out what they need, sending documents, pulling stuff. So that's been really great. And we're really on much better terms with HUD right now than we have been in a while from what I can see.
Yes, I totally agree with everything that Nick said about HUD. They seem very pleased. And like he said, WOH has been giving them more information than I even knew, because we were blessed to have them during our RAD time. As we know, they were a part of our whole RAD project. So it's been amazing what they've been doing for us within this little bit of time, honestly.
Thank you. Thank you.
No, it's a good question. The pest control issue we've had a little bit improvement on that front. Basically our existing pest control contractor not only comes and does a few different phases of treatment, but they also do regular testing, and they're leaving test strips out constantly. And apparently last week, the first week of January, they had their best set of tests in a very long time also, which meant that all of our different pest issues are considerably down. We still do have the capability to look at other companies. It's a very similar situation that I just described with asbestos. There was an RFP out. We have a number of proposals in. There is a company that has a pretty robust proposal for tackling the issue on a larger scale than all of the other firms, but it is a significant fee. But again, I think we talked about this at 2 meetings ago, that was one of the big things that I was looking for room in the budget to do, and we do have room in the right lines to make that commitment if we want to go with a new firm and do a larger kind of building wide plan for pest management. I do want to also bring you all up to speed on some fire alarm issues that we've been having in the building. Essentially, the situation as I understand it is our fire alarm company is a company that's been bought out several times with different names, Johnson Controls, Tyco, and every time they get bought out, few things change. The current issue is that the current company is not authorized to service the actual company of fire alarm units in our building. So we have Thomas units, and they're not authorized to service Thomas units. So we've been having an array of alarm issues, mostly going off for maintenance reasons. And it appears after a call that we finally got somebody to come look at it, that basically our units are aging, and they're all going to be aging out soon. And so we're in a bit of a pickle where our existing contractor has to subcontract out, possibly even with a middleman, before they can even get the other company to come service these units. And we're very thankful that the fire department has been incredibly patient with us as we deal with this. And unfortunately, always seems to happen when all of our staff have gone home. And so nobody's there to deal with it. And it's been a lot of calls for our fire department. And so I just want to thank them for being patient as we deal with this. Essentially, we are getting getting quotes to not only fix the existing units, but to overhaul the entire system. And we are also going to other companies to also get those quotes, specifically looking at companies who are authorized to work with the units that we have in the building currently. So that's been a real headache for both our administrative staff and our maintenance staff, but they've been doing a great job keeping up on it, working with the fire department. And so I want to just thank everyone for all the work they've been putting in on that. It's been very difficult all around.
Another just like suggestion, I know with COVID there it probably wouldn't happen anytime soon, but that fire in the city was absolutely terrifying. And I know that they used to do things for kids where the fire department they would come in and do like activities about just like making sure that people understand emergency exit plans for specific parts of the buildings. I think it would be worth our while, even if it's via Zoom, like get the fire chief to just host something specific to Bliss about like where the emergency exits are, what to do in case you can't get to one. I think it's probably overdue, and just a suggestion, but I'd be
No, that's
happy
great.
to help coordinate that.
That would be great. I think that's a really great idea.
Okay. Actually, I think that I would like to do that with Robert and Anthony as resident commissioners, if you guys are up to that.
Sounds good to me.
All right, cool. I'll be in touch via email.
Amazing. I'll leave it up to you all. Thank you so much. It's a great idea.
Thanks, Claire. That's a great idea.
And then the last thing on my set of updates is the ED search. And as I alluded to earlier, my role is limited to basically kind of the procurement end and the front end, which would be helping to bring on firms, other companies, resources to do the candidate search. But then the actual hiring process is really under the purview of the board. And Ravonda has been proactively working on that. Our attorneys also, when they came on board and started to understand the situation, made a recommendation for a firm that they've worked with. And so I think Ravonda and the WOH are in conversation about that firm. I think there's a meeting set up for later this week. One thing that I think could make that process a little not easier, but could bring some structure to it, is if there was going to be maybe a little committee or subcommittee of the board that would really just focus on hiring. And that would obviously be a pretty important one, because bringing on the right person is obviously incredibly important.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're here, guys, and we're back to this subcommittee for finding an ED. The blessing is I have been working with the attorneys. They've been giving me suggestions. They have gave me a firm, which I looked into and sounds beautiful. They're called Gans and Associates. One thing that caught my eye was their headline said, "For your most challenging searches." So I was like, oh, this is beautiful. Another thing that caught my eyes is it said that we are a minority and woman-owned firm with over 35 years of experience. We are one of a select group national executive search firms that specializes in recruitment services for nonprofit housing executives. So they were the ones that really stuck out with me. I was blessed to be able to schedule a meeting with them and get a little more background and let them know where we're at. Any of the board members are can join, I can send them over the information. But basically, they're willing to hold our hand through our subcommittee, and we let them know what we're looking for. We let them know what we're interested in. We let them know anything, and they just piece that all together for us and just look for these beautiful people all around the world.
That's amazing. I just wanted to say I would love to come to that meeting and would be happy to join the subcommittee.
Great.
Same. So this is a consultant, you're saying this is a consultancy firm that will assist with the search and the hire, or just?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I guess I'm curious to go back to when we listed the job with HUD and everything like that. Basically, we didn't receive enough. Is it right that we didn't really receive enough candidates? Like, wasn't.
Yeah, it wasn't.
Yeah.
But I got some good feedback from Nick where, he thought maybe we should have put the salary in there, which we didn't. We said salary would be based on experience. And he was saying that he felt like we should have put the salary in there because it is a nice salary and we probably would have got more candidates, but neither here nor there. We're still moving forward and we're still going. So we're about to get this full-time ED. Hopefully, we'll be able to have Nick procure us a firm that we love and like. And that's just where we are.
Cool.
Yeah, to answer your question, Rebecca, I think from what I understand, they're kind of the whole package. So if we want to bring them on in this way, they will work with us on the actual job title to make sure that includes everything involved in the position, and that also is a title that is a title that can be put out there. They do a nationwide search. They're not just a local firm, and they work with housing authorities all over the country. They will, I think they pre-screen candidates and even maybe do their own interview process first after hearing what the housing authority is looking for. And then I think if we want them to, from what I understand, they'll walk through the whole process right up until hiring and notifying the chosen candidate. And I just got to not witness it, but hear about the process that the school district went through, because the school district just went through a similar process. And yeah, they had someone walking them through, a specialist walking them through the entire process and making sure that they were casting a large enough net, that the right information was out there, and that the candidates were kind of curated for the needs of the school district. And I think that really is what I'm thinking that we need here. And it looks like this firm can do that.
Yeah, that sounds like exactly what we need. That's really exciting.
It's so exciting.
Great. So we will move forward with that. We will keep everyone updated on that process. And then we do have some unfortunate news also regarding HHA and the board, which is that we have received the resignation letter of Marie, that this will be her last meeting. And this is a loss, certainly for the board and for HHA. Anytime you have a board member and a community member who is deeply involved, who cares about the organization and specifically about the tenants, it's very hard to lose that person. And I know personally, Marie has been somebody just in my 2 months coming on who I've been able to go to as a resource with a lot of experience over years with the housing authority. And Marie's always been willing to jump on a call and talk about everything. And so it's definitely a hit to the board to lose Marie, but I think she's
You're
focused
gonna
on
make me
lots of other
cry.
things.
You gotta stop. You're gonna make me cry.
I can't. I'm sorry. I'll let you talk too, because you don't want, because I mean it's your announcement to make.
Well, I just want to say it has been a pleasure and an honor to serve on this board. And, I really can't wait to see what you guys do over the next year or two. And, I'm always here. I mean, I live in Hudson. I won't be on the board, but I'm still a civilian and I'm plan on, keeping up with what you're doing, and I'll be on the CAC, and we're definitely going to be advocating for, good affordable housing within the remit that we have. So, we'll stay in touch. And anyway, thank you all.
Thank you, Marie.
Thank you, Marie.
I will still call you and Ann, and I will still feed Ann whatever he wants.
Thank you. I'll let him know. I will. Thank you.
Claire, did you have your hand up? Oh, I guess you said it. Okay.
Yeah, I was just gonna second a lot of what you say, and let Marie know that I really appreciated working with her. It was a difficult year to onboard, and you made the blows a lot softer. And I really appreciate your your neutralism in some of these moments. It was important, and it was eye-opening for the way that a board should function. So yeah, it is definitely a loss, but I think that sometimes when you have somebody this good, expanding into a different capacity, that can still touch on some of the issues that we were facing here that felt like very much on our own, it might move the ball a little bit faster. So I appreciate your allyship, and that's what organizing is all about, right?
Absolutely.
And I'll
Yes.
just add one last thing, which is positivity. And I think that was a big thing for me, trying to just understand what was going on and hear about all of these things, some of which were very difficult and hard to get my mind around. Maria, you always presented everything and represented your side with a lot of positivity. And that helped me personally, and just feeling like everything was possible. So thanks for that. Thanks for bringing that to the board.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
for those of you who have enjoyed everything that Marie has brought to this board, they can continue to follow her career in the community at the Conservation Advisory Council, to which she's a part of. So we'll all monitor your journey there in the future. And thanks again. That is the last thing that I have on my docket for tonight. Oh, I guess I should say that the mayor has also been made aware of this resignation, and Common Council president, and I believe that the mayor will hopefully notify us about potential new board members for the next meeting. So we'll look forward to hearing more about that. And then I think I had this on my agenda from 2 months ago, but I didn't know to put it back on. Claire, do you have a conflict on Wednesday nights with these meetings? Is that something that we need to continue to work on?
Yeah, I got the committee schedule, so I can send over what the conflicts are. I think it's a good time for everybody, because I wasn't the only one. There was other people that had mentioned maybe picking a different day of the week. So I can send over what mine are, and maybe we can just start a thread.
Great. Let's do that, and we'll try to find the time that works for everyone.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nick, or anyone, do anyone know the procedures that the mayor must follow to pick a new candidate?
I know that it's outlined in the bylaws. Again, I do not think it goes into a lot of detail, but I know that the mayor, that is the purview of the mayor. And what I will say is that this is, I mentioned it with the elections, but this is something just in our few weeks worth of interaction with our attorneys, is that as they've looked at our bylaws, as they've looked at our procedures, policies, they have definitely flagged that we need probably a bylaw overhaul and procedure and policy overhaul, because there's just a lot that's hasn't been touched in 20, 30, 40, 50 years. We are, I don't think we're out of compliance with New York State on anything, but we just need to make sure that these kind of set of procedures that we've all come to know as a board and as a housing authority may not be perfectly in line with the bylaws. And it's always good to try to bring those together if you can. And so they're definitely suggesting that the board, in collaboration probably with the new director, definitely take a look at that and kind of rewriting, editing, amending, and kind of overhauling a lot of those procedural documents.
It's been a goal since before you came on. That was like one of the first things that this board said they wanted to do, was sit down and go through all the policies and procedures. So I guess we weren't that far off, guys.
But to answer your question, Robert, no, I do not know what anything else except that those the members are appointed. The non tenant commissioners are appointed by the mayor and
Thank
serve
you.
at his discretion.
I think for my appointment, somebody nominated me to him, and then he kind of just reached out and I just had to sign something. So it's not like a really rigorous, or there's not a huge process. Like I'm sure if there's more than one person that he has to consider, there'd probably be some interviews involved. I mean, there's probably an interview either way, but I think if you have somebody in mind, it's worth a conversation, right?
Okay, appreciate that. Thank you.
And for the council members who are here tonight, I would just, if anyone is interested, when I was a council member, I was there. I basically just agreed that I would recuse myself from any vote on the council that, had to do with the housing authority.
Marie, do you have a question?
No,
You're
not a
muted still.
question.
Okay.
Can you hear me now? Yeah, I just want to second what Claire said. That's the same thing that happened in my case. Somebody nominated me to the mayor at the time. There was an interview. There were a couple of candidates actually, and then the mayor decided, and then the mayor chose. So I think there is oftentimes there are people on the board, the chairman or someone has someone in mind. Though I'm not saying that that's essential.
But that's definitely a first step. If anyone has any ideas about somebody I think they would be good for the board, or somebody that might want to, reach out to the mayor. That's a great first step. Any other questions or new business from the board? If not, then I will open it up to the public. I think Alderman, I have to apologize. Is your name pronounced Alderman Roney or Alderman Ronnie?
I'll answer to both. That's Ronnie. Yeah.
Thank you. Did you have a question or comment?
Yes, I did have a question. I do want to apologize. I had to kind of I put the meeting on the background for about from like 6:30 to 7 because I had to deal with some kids. But if it's been dealt with already, I do apologize. My question was, it's not really a question, it's just a concern about the security position. I think there could be a possibility of some conflict or some concerns that could arise from a person that lives in the premises of their security because, obviously, if you're acting as a security guard, you could potentially find yourself trying to deal with the situation with your neighbors, and then that kind of puts a little bit of an onus on themselves. They might deal with it a little differently, thinking that, you know, these people know where I live. I could have a difficult time. So I'm just saying, you know, maybe that's something to think about. If there is, obviously, we want to have a position that the person is connected to the community, but there is a potential for a problem. That's what I wanted to point out.
No, thank you. I think that's a really good point, and that's one of the first things that's come up just in internal discussions about the possibility of hiring a resident of the building. What I will throw out there is the other side of that story, and part of this was informed from an initial conversation I had with the commissioner of the Hudson Police Department, specifically about this role, which is that there also is a benefit to a significant benefit to knowing the residents of the building. And at a very basic level, one of the things we're looking for is somebody who can be at that front door or the front doors, monitoring anyone coming in, and it's a wave and a smile to all of the residents and the kids and the family members of our tenants, and then just an acknowledgement and a question for anyone who's not one of those tenants or guests or family members, and writing down their name and logging it in the books. And that's a very difficult thing for a fresh face from Albany to do, because everybody coming into the building is new to them. But I guess that's the other side that's been brought up, is that's a very unique ability that a tenant would have, is to right off the bat know who should be in the building and who shouldn't be in the building. And there's no learning curve at all, especially as we talk about a short-term position. But you're absolutely right that there is also the fact that they may have friends, family in the buildings, almost certainly, and so that puts them in a difficult position if someone they know is doing something they shouldn't be doing. So that's a real issue, and thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, like I said, my concern obviously takes into account we want somebody that has the connection to the community. It doesn't necessarily have to be somebody, you know, from Albany. Obviously, Hudson is a very small town. Lots of people are interconnected. So that, you know, that can be dealt with either way. So thank you for answering my concerns. I appreciate it. You guys are doing a good job.
Thank you for voicing them. We appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Roni. And one thing that I did learn from HUD is it's actually better to have a tenant in any type of job position, because it's called like a type of workforce program that they would be able to benefit off of. And then the authority is benefiting as well, because they're not paying a certain amount of dollars that they would from like an outsider or a special firm doing this job rather than their own tenant. So this is something that's happening more often with housing authorities, is, you know, with their maintenance, with the security, it's actually a tenant. It's someone that lives there. And they said that people feel safer and comfortable knowing that they have security in the building that they live in, someone that lives there, resides there, and knows them. But your concern is absolutely a great one, and I truly appreciate that.
Yes, that's a good concern. I'm not so sure about, I mean, I understand having somebody in the building who knows the people, but the conflict of interest may be a little bit too much for that person. Just my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions or comments about the security guard? Any other topics we've talked about tonight? If not, then I
mean,
will.
I
Oh,
just
Rebecca,
would-
you looked like you were queuing up to say something.
I do, yeah. To me, it also makes sense that it wouldn't probably be a great idea to hire a person who lives in the building. I didn't actually realize that was a, something that we were talking about. I thought you had mentioned like one of the maintenance staff, right?
It's a maintenance staff who also lives in the building.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, to me, that seems like it could be like, it would probably come more on the side of problematic than on the side of helpful.
Exactly.
But that is
Well,
just,
one thing to also remember is that this building is under intense surveillance. There is a video camera in every hallway, the elevators, and so just in my initial experience, we have an incident at night. Maybe the police come, maybe they don't. Maybe we're hearing a complaint from another tenant. This happened. You can go back, you can isolate, you can find the person walking in, you can find the person going into the elevator, going upstairs, doing everything. So whoever that is, whether it's an outside person or an inside person, we're going to see exactly how they interact with everybody who comes in and what they do. And so there's not a lot of leeway for somebody to take advantage, because everything is on video. And it's really just a matter and this is going back to the conversation I had with the commissioner. Our big concern is really the safety of the tenants, and the fact that we have tenants telling us that they're scared to be in the halls at certain times of night. They have people in the building who are not supposed to be there. There are, whether it's drugs, violent acts, we're really talking about safety issues. And what I look at as the main goal, the primary goal of just almost like a stopgap of what we need to do right away, is to just get somebody, like I'm saying, downstairs who can just say, no, you're not supposed to be here. What are you doing? And they turn around and leave. And so many of these problems stop right there. And that's like a very quick, very initial kind of thing that I think we need to bring on, is that face, or somebody's coming to complete a drug deal and, oh crap, there's a security guard, not going in there right now. And that's that initial thing. It's not like this is somebody who's going to be guns blazing, chasing people down, busting in doors. This is just almost like a check-in person, and we have a clear idea of who's here and who wasn't here. And certain people are stopped before they get even in the door, either by them or because they see the security guard and they don't want to go in.
my concern would really be more along the lines of just like internal pressures on the person, like some kind of like psychosocial
Exactly.
relationships that the person will have, given that they live in the building. You know what I mean? Like that, which I see that's also potentially the positive, but it just, I don't know. It seems like it could be difficult.
I just want to say, I think this is really important that we go over all this stuff and have all these ideas out here, but we are approaching the territory of just focusing on hypothetical scenarios that haven't occurred yet. And I think the big thing is, let's see who applies for the job. And from there, that's when we really have to have these discussions. And it's so good that we have all of this information, but I think we don't need to, continue with hypothetical scenarios for now. This is all really important, but let's put the job out there and get people responding to it. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yeah, Alderman Roney, did you
Yes.
have another?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you guys for addressing the concerns and kind of listing the pros and cons of having either or. Obviously, it's you guys have been charged with evaluating the need. It's really a question of what role the security guard will play. Is it more of a resource officer? Is it obviously a lot of security? It's kind of about theatrics, like Nick kind of mentioned, just being there kind of deters certain events. my concern, like I said, was more about the possibility, and like, you know, it is a hypothetical, but it's a hypothetical that has, you know, a higher statistical chance, just given the property's history. So you guys can obviously decide the way, whatever you want, and it is something that should be, you know, put into use. Obviously, the security guard doesn't have, you know, a 2-year contract or something. So if something does happen, obviously you guys can reevaluate. So yeah, I agree with the fact that something should be done quicker and then evaluate as the time goes on. Thanks again, guys. And
Yeah, just wanted to add for your information, just like we had spoken about it in this meeting, and there was this discussion that it would be a 90-day situation at first, right? So we're actually going to have a lot of this period before, you know, we're in the before hiring period, right? But once we have hired, there's also going to be another period to, you know, work out a lot of these issues. Because as we've said through this whole meeting, it's really, we don't want to just have a fast Band-Aid thing. We want to make something that's really lasting and works for the residents. So thank you. Just want to add that in.
Thanks, Rebecca. Alderman Sarwar, did you have something?
You talking to me, Nick?
Yeah, I saw you had your hand raised, but I didn't know if
Yeah,
you,
yeah.
if you had any.
My concern is the security officer you're gonna hire. Obviously, I heard like you needed a New York State certified license holder. Plus, you needed like civil service too.
Yeah, we had discussed that earlier in the meeting.
Yeah, I
This
heard
is a
that. So
civil
you need
service
both of
position.
them, huh?
If we're going to go with that position, correct.
Okay, all right. That's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
Yep. Oh, but I guess the just clarification that I'll mean is nobody is on that civil service list currently. So we would be in the short term hiring somebody provisionally who would not be on the civil service list, and then they would have to complete the civil service test if we continued with that position, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. Thank you, Nick.
Great. Any other questions or comments? All right, then I would like to thank you all, and I would entertain any motion to adjourn.
I will
I
make
would
that a
like-
motion.
Marie got it again.
I-
Marie rose her hand.
I wanted to make my last motion to
You
adjourn.
got it. You got it.
Sorry.
I'll second.
Thank you, everyone, and thank
Thank
you
you,
again,
everyone.
Marie. We will miss you, and we will continue to watch your
Yes.
your journey.
Thank you. You too. Good luck, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Good
Bye.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you, Linda.